believe me, Florence screamed. I see that she has used her witch powers to seduce you as well. The prince tightened his grip on Ellie's throat. She gasped for air and tried to claw his hand away. He threw her to the ground where she took in deep breaths. Someone, come and take them to the dungeons. Lock them up. I will tell you what is to be done with them later. Ellie looked at Sir Lawrence with stubborn eyes. Even if they were going to punish her, at least she had saved Rolf. Sir Lawrence, you must believe me. You are a good and noble man. Please believe me. Sir Lawrence didn't say a word back. In truth, he was deeply conflicted. On one hand, he had already checked his brother and found nothing wrong with the young man. On the other hand, he had been told by the prince that the princess was devious and could not be trusted. He didn't know who to believe anymore. 2 guards pulled Ellie and Florence up and dragged them out of the room. After they were gone, James looked up at Sir Lawrence. Did she hurt him? Sir Lawrence was still shaken and took a moment to reply. No, Your Highness. She doesn't seem to have hurt him. Maybe she was telling the truth? There's no sign of any damage on Rolf's body. Prince James frowned. You can't be too sure, Lords. Maybe she was just about to do something before you caught her. Who knows? Maybe you got here just in time. Sir Lawrence didn't look too sure, but he didn't want to doubt James's words. Yes, Your Highness, you're probably right. It seems I didn't punish her enough last time. Lawrence shifted. I just didn't know she was capable of such great evil, Your Highness. He's so vulnerable right now. It would take a truly cruel person to hurt a man who is already so injured. James looked down at Rolf. He saved me from that assassin. That arrow came out of nowhere, and before I knew what was happening, he dove in front of me. What did the witch doctor say? Sir Lawrence's eyes were in pain, but he steeled himself against all emotions. The same thing as all the other witch doctors Your Highness sent. Rolf is not going to make it through the night. James nodded. I will send word to find a master witch doctor. A tear fell down Sir Lawrence's cheek. Forget it, Your Highness. The doctors all say the same thing. If we can't get the arrowhead out, it's pointless, but none of them can even find it. Your Highness shouldn't waste any more resources. If it's time for Sir Rolf to go, then maybe we should let him. James could tell that Sir Lawrence really meant these words. He was really tired of hearing bad news again and again. James nodded awkwardly and left the 2 brothers alone. Meanwhile, far below the castle was the dungeon. The sound of dripping water and clanging chains echoed through the halls. Florence and Ellie were dragged on the cold and damp floor. Ellie's mind raced as she tried to figure a way out of this. If it all played out like she thought it would, they might be able to make it out alive. Hopefully, Rolf would wake up and tell everyone what had happened. Until then, the 2 women had to survive. They were thrown into a dark cell. Ouch! Florence yelled as she landed on her face. Ellie groaned as she picked herself up. Florence rushed to the cell gates. You must listen. My lady was trying to heal him. Please listen to us. The guard hit his baton on the metal bars, which led to an unbearable noise. Ellie and Florence both covered their ears. How dare you assassinate Sir Rolf? Even if you are the princess, you will be punished. Wait till His Highness returns to deal with you. Florence yelled as loud as she could, still deafened by the cell bars. She didn't assassinate him! Florence, it's okay, Ellie said, tired. Florence looked back. But my lady! Ellie had already thought about what would happen next. This was like a game of chess to her. There's no use trying to convince them of anything right now. As long as Sir Rolf's injuries are not healed, nobody is going to believe us. But you pulled out the arrowhead. Surely they can see that. And they can't. They don't know what they are looking for. They don't have the experience I have. Florence's face fell as she started to understand the seriousness of the situation they were in. So, what do we do? Ellie looked up at Florence hopefully. We have to be patient. Sir Rolf will wake up, and then they will understand. At that moment, a sharp pain went through Ellie's back. She gasped in agony. Florence immediately jumped towards her. What's wrong, my lady? Ellie gritted her teeth through the pain. Here, come take a look, but be careful. If it's bleeding, don't touch it. It will get infected. Florence picked up Ellie's dress. Your wound has opened again, my lady. This was not good news. How bad is it? It's bleeding quite freely. Ellie sighed. Do we still have our supplies? Florence shook her head. They took them away from us. Ellie was worried. Her wound could easily get infected here. The damp and disgusting place was crawling with bacteria and parasites. The most common cause of death was always infection, and she couldn't even close up her wound. She needed to get out fast. She looked up at Florence's worried face. I need to disinfect and close it as soon as possible, or it could get much worse. We will have to be very careful. Florence nodded. She now understood what Ellie meant by infection and the basics of first aid. Being around Ellie had taught her a lot. Suddenly, they heard a voice that chilled them. A sly, sickly, sweet female voice came down the hallway. Where is the dear princess? I wanted to check in on her to see how she was doing. Ellie's face scrunched up in anger as a face appeared from the darkness. It was Nerissa.